In the glass and steel heart of Apex Plaza, two strangers are connected by a single digit. Maya Thorne, a legal researcher on the 15th floor, sends a vitriolic, breakup text to the wrong number. The recipient isn't her ex, but a blunt stranger who offers cynical life advice instead of an apology. Under the shield of anonymity, they become each other's only honest connection, never sharing names, photos, or floors. Maya vents about the shark, who just took over the 22nd floor. The stranger mocks her taste in coffee, but when a stalled elevator forces a face-to-face collision, Maya realizes her digital confidant is none other than Julian Vane, the very shark she feared. Now, they must navigate a high-stakes office romance where the rules of the 22nd floor clash with the secrets they shared in the dark. The rain in the city didn't fall, it plummeted. Maya stood in her kitchen, surrounded by half-packed boxes and a wilted monstera plant that looked as depressed as she felt. Mark had left his key on the counter that morning, along with a note about how he needed space to find his authentic self. The authentic self he was referring to was a yoga instructor named Tiffany who posted inspirational quotes about manifesting abundance. With trembling thumbs, Maya grabbed her phone. She didn't want a conversation. She wanted to hurl a grenade. She typed out a vitriolic masterpiece, her eyes blurred with tears, and hit send to the number sheet had memorized for years. Then, she dropped the phone and sobbed. 5 minutes later, the chime of a text message broke the silence. Maya wiped her eyes, expecting a groveling apology. Unknown number, I don't know who you are, but I'm 90% sure you sent this to the wrong person. Also, point of order, if your plants are dead, it's a sign of neglect, not a metaphor for your soul. And for the record, live, laugh, love, decor is a recognized red flag in 48 states. You're better off. Maya stared. The grief was momentarily eclipsed by a hot flash of embarrassment. Maya, oh my God. I'm so sorry. I typed the last 2 digits wrong. Please delete that. I'm mortified, unknown number, don't be. It was the most entertaining thing I've read all day. My afternoon was a series of spreadsheets. Your melodrama was a welcome intermission. Go buy a new plant. Something hard to kill, like a snake plant. Or a plastic one, given your track record. Maya let out a watery laugh. It was mean. It was blunt. It was exactly what she needed. Over the next 3 weeks, the unknown number became a permanent fixture in Maya's life. They made a pact. No names, no photos, no real-life talk that could bridge the gap. He was just a voice in the ether. Maya told him about her boss, a man who used words like synergy and bandwidth until her ears bled. The stranger, tell him you don't have the cognitive real estate for his nonsense. He'll either promote you or be too confused to fire you. He told her about his struggle to find a decent espresso in the city. Maya, you're just a snob. There's a cart on 5th that's amazing. The stranger, I don't trust coffee that comes from a vehicle with a squeaky wheel. They were two ghosts in a city of millions, haunting each other's lock screens. Maya found herself smiling at her phone during lunch, prompting Sarah to squint suspiciously over her salad. You have the glow, Sarah accused. Is it the wrong number guy? Is he a secret prince? A billionaire? A very articulate bot? He's just a person, Maya said, her heart doing a strange little skip. He's my blunt, anonymous best friend. The atmosphere at Apex Plaza shifted on Monday morning. The elevators were buzzing with talk of Julian Vane's arrival. The shark had officially taken over the creative department. Maya saw him once from a distance, a silhouette in a charcoal suit, walking with a predatory grace that made people instinctively step out of his way. He looked like the kind of man who ate junior legal researchers for breakfast. That afternoon, she was feeling particularly overwhelmed by a 400-page merger document. She texted the stranger, "Maya, work is a nightmare. There's a new guy here everyone is terrified of. He looks like he was carved out of ice." The stranger, "Maybe he's just surrounded by people who don't do their jobs. Ice melts if you're bold enough to bring the heat. Stand your ground, legal girl." Maya took a deep breath. She went back to her document. She felt capable. The encounter happened on a Tuesday. The humidity was 90%, and the Apex Plaza elevators were acting up. Maya slipped into elevator B just as the doors were closing. A man was already inside, his back to her. He was on his phone, his thumb moving with a familiar, rhythmic speed. He smelled of sandalwood and expensive ink. The elevator climbed, 10, 12, 15, and then, with a sickening clunk, it lurched to a halt. The lights flickered and died, replaced by the dim red glow of the emergency system. "Great," the man muttered. His voice was a low, resonant baritone. "Just what I needed." Maya felt her panic rising. She hated small spaces. She instinctively reached for her phone. "Maya, I'm stuck in the elevator. Everything is red and I'm pretty sure I'm going to die in a pencil skirt." A second later, the man's phone chimed in the silence of the tiny car. He looked at his screen. He began to type, "The stranger, you aren't going to die. You're just in a temporary box. Take a breath. If you faint, I'm not carrying you out. I have a bad back." Maya's breath hitched. She looked at the man's back. Then she looked at her screen. "No. There is no way," she typed, "a bad back. Is that what you tell the women who realize you're a snob?" The man froze. He didn't type. He slowly turned around. In the dim red light, Julian Vane looked less like a shark and more like a man who had just seen a ghost. He looked at Maya, then at her phone, then back to her eyes. "Toasted almond latte?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Maya's jaw dropped. "Minimalist zone." Julian let out a breathy, incredulous laugh. He leaned his head back against the mirrored wall of the elevator. "I've been giving career advice to the woman who works 7 floors below me, and I've been telling the shark of the 22nd floor that he's a snob," Maya said, her face heating up. "Oh God. I called you a jerk. Like, 15 times, you called me worse than that," Julian said, stepping closer. The shark persona was gone, replaced by the blunt, honest stranger she had shared her nights with. "You told me I was emotionally stunted when I said I didn't like the Notebook. You are." Maya laughed, the fear of the elevator vanishing. Julian looked at her, really looked at her, without the barrier of the glass office or the phone screen. He reached out, his hand hovering near her shoulder before he tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "I think," Julian said softly, "that I'd like to see that snake plant you bought. Since I'm the one who convinced you not to give up on nature." The elevator suddenly groaned and began to move again. The doors opened to the lobby, where a crowd of worried employees waited. Julian stepped out, his professional mask sliding back into place as he adjusted his cuffs, but as Maya stepped out behind him, her phone buzzed one last time. "Julian, the stranger dinner. 7 o'clock, and for the record, you look much better in a pencil skirt than I imagined." Maya looked up and saw him disappearing into the crowd, but she caught the slight, triumphant tilt of his head. The wrong number had been the only right thing to happen to her in years. The morning after the elevator encounter, The 15th floor legal department was a tomb of beige cubicles and the smell of stale toner. Maya sat at her desk, her fingers hovering over her keyboard. Her phone sat face down, no more texting from the same building. The rule felt like a dare. It was one thing to be brave behind a blue bubble, it was another to walk into the shark's tank. "You're vibrating," Sarah said, leaning over the partition with a donut. "Not the phone. You." "Did wrong number guy finally reveal he's a lizard person?" "I met him," Maya whispered, her heart skipping. "In the elevator yesterday." "It's Julian Vane." Sarah dropped her donut. "The shark. The man who looks like he was drawn by an angry god." "Maya. You're dead. He's going to have you shredded like a sensitive document. He told me to come to his office," Maya said, standing up and smoothing her skirt. "So I'm going." The ride to the 22nd floor felt longer than the time she was stuck in the dark. When the doors opened, the atmosphere changed. Everything was white, glass, and silent. Creative assistants scurried around like they were afraid of making a sound. Maya walked toward the corner office. Julian's assistant, a woman who looked like she'd never blinked in her life, started to speak, but Maya didn't stop. She knocked twice and pushed the door open. Julian was standing by a floor-to-ceiling window, a tablet in his hand. He didn't look up immediately. "I'm in the middle of a campaign review, unless this is urgent. I was told that if I had something to say, I should say it to your face," Maya interrupted. Julian froze. He turned slowly, a slow, dangerous smirk spreading across his face. He set the tablet down and crossed his arms. "You're 5 minutes earlier than I expected." "That's very legal of you." Maya walked right up to his desk, her pulse thundering in her ears. "I wanted to tell you that your rule is stupid. Texting was the only reason I didn't quit this job 3 weeks ago." "And I wanted to tell you," Julian said, stepping around the desk until he was inches from her, "that looking at a screen is a poor substitute for the real thing." The silence in the office was thick. He wasn't the cynical voice on the phone anymore, he was a man who smelled of cedarwood and resolve. "Tonight," Julian said, his voice dropping to that low baritone that made her toes curl. 7 o'clock. Verve. It's a minimalist zone, so you'll feel right at home. And since I'm a jerk, I'm making you pick the wine." Maya tilted her chin up. "I'm choosing the most expensive bottle on the list." "For the emotional trauma of the elevator, fair," he conceded, his eyes locking onto hers. "Now, get out of here before my assistants think I'm actually human." "It'll ruin my reputation." Maya turned to leave, but as she reached the door, she stopped and looked back. "By the way, Julian, yes, you were right. The snake plant survived the night. I think I'm getting better at keeping things alive." Julian watched her go, his professional mask completely gone. For the first time since he'd moved into the building, the shark didn't look like he was hunting. He looked like he'd already won. Kindly like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the story. Don't forget to switch on the notification so that you won't miss the next episode when it drops.